Mi nombre es Aníbal Ibarra, es un placer estar de nuevo con ustedes aquí en el programa de Hola Gasta.
Yeah, so Georgia is maybe two states. There's Atlanta and non-Atlanta. You know, Atlanta is very cosmopolitan, has a lot of the 500 companies. You know, there's a lot of finance and technology and all this kind of stuff. But a lot of the rest of the state is still very agricultural. You know, as you go down through the central part of the state, down to southwest Georgia, and the peanut farmers and the cotton farming and all this kind of stuff.
Vitalia onions.
Right. It is largely still agricultural based. So, you know, there are different pockets around the different states. California, particularly in some of the valleys over there, has a lot of agriculture and a lot of immigrant workers and that kind of thing working in agriculture. And it's the same thing in parts here of Georgia. Here in Augusta, it's more of an urban area. But it doesn't take long to get out into Burke County or even Columbia County and find agricultural
Just minutes.
settings. You know?
Minutes away.
Yeah. So, you know, agriculture is still an important part of the economy.
How it's going to impact the HB 87?
Well, it's certainly going to increase the costs to the farmers and to the firms working in agriculture. Yeah, they've got more regulations, they've got more procedures they've got to go through before they can hire immigrant workers and things like that. When firms are looking where they're going to set up, they want business-friendly states, you know. When workers are looking about where they're going to work, you know, they want places that are easy to find jobs in and good-paying jobs and well-paying jobs and things like that. And so the combination of the two could make it more difficult. You know, with the deficit as a whole, when we're talking about deficit reduction, they haven't talked that much about reducing the subsidies in farming, and as you've just mentioned, you know, it is a big subsidy. The farming lobby is pretty strong in Washington, and so, you know, I haven't heard that, you know, these are programs that are going to be cut. I heard it slightly a couple of months ago, but it does seem to be that, you know, that subsidy is probably going to stay in place. They have to renew it every 5 years, I think, the Farm Bill. So it could get cut further down the line. Certainly, if the cost to the farmer goes up, it's going to get passed on in the prices to the consumer in corn or cotton or peanuts or the agricultural products that come out of the farm system. Certainly, that's going to go up. And if the subsidies went away as well, you know, the chances are that, you know, that money that the farmers are getting, how are they going to make that money back? Maybe try and raise prices, you know. So you know, the prices could go up. Corn is one that's been heavily subsidized because of this ethanol content for a greener fuel, and that's, you know, allowed farmers to make a lot of money out of corn. Would we be better getting ethanol and that kind of thing from the sugar in Brazil? Probably, but right now, you know, the political situation is that we're subsidizing corn production in Iowa. Mainly for the benefit of the farmer, not particularly for the benefit of the consumer. Yeah, I mean, and that goes all the way back to an economist called Keynes, who talked about, you know, animal spirits and perceptions and feelings and things like that. You know, there's lots of people out there measuring consumer confidence, you know, because it's important. You know,
what is that?
How people?
What is that?
You know, if people are
consumer confidence.
If they think the economy's doing well and they're going to have a job next year, they're more likely to go out and spend money. And so you're trying to measure that feeling now, so that down the line, you know, businesses can make those adjustments. And it's the same kind of thing with this bill. You know, is that the perception right now is going to affect us down the line. You know, as people or businesses or individuals become to think that this is not a business-friendly state, or that this is in some ways going to raise their costs of doing business, or it's going to affect their employability and things like that. It's going to decrease our ability to attract workers, maybe. So, you know, it's going to have a perception effect now. Are firms going to leave the state immediately because they've got to do this E-Verify stuff? Yeah, probably not. They're just going to have to deal with it. But when they're making expansion plans or they're making decisions down the line about where they're going to locate their business or expansion offshoots in the future, this is one of the things that they'll take into account. Is it going to be a big thing? Are there more important things like an educated workforce, access to telecommunications and infrastructure and all this kind of thing? Yeah, it's all going to be in the package of what they consider when they're looking at expanding the business or locating a new business. Or that. I read a report yesterday from the governor that he was interested in creating jobs for Georgians, and he's been very keen on that. And so there's some political action there, with unemployment at 10% in the state, that, you create jobs for residents of the state. But in some ways, that can be short-sighted. If you can't attract people to the state and become Georgians, then what's going to happen? Immigrants that come to the state, they spend money as well that generate other jobs. There's knock-on effects. Immigration is an issue in this country that needs to be dealt with politically. Immigration has pros and cons, certainly. The immigrants come in. Do they take jobs from people that are already here? Most of the evidence is no. Do they provide a burden on public services? Yes and no. They tend to use the public health service more, but other services less, relative to those people that are already here in the first place. Do they spend money here in the local economy that generates income for other people? Certainly, and so the overall effect is quite small on the net benefit or cost of immigrants. In the studies that have been done, now none have really been done on specifically these laws that have been passed in Arizona and Georgia and how they may affect individual states as opposed to the country as a whole. And it's only down the line that we as economists will work that out and find out whether these are beneficial or detrimental laws. There's a lot of demonstrations and a lot of pressure for them to not hold that meeting in Arizona because of the similar kind of laws. So, you could certainly see that being potentially something that would occur. Then obviously, the T-Center's not going to generate as much money as we would hope. Is it a large amount, small amount? I don't know, but the potential is there certainly. Stephen Colbert was on the, I don't know, he was still on the Daily Show or something like that. He said, "What can we do to stop these immigrants?" Well, one of the things we do is make ourselves poorer, because then the economic migrants that are coming here for our better wages and better conditions are not going to come. Is that a reasonable solution? The incentive is here that they're going to come because of the wages and the jobs, and it's a better working environment than where they were. That's good, right? Isn't that bettering all mankind as a whole? Everybody does better off. We do better off. We get their labor. They do better off. They're earning higher wages. The economy does better off because they're productive members of society. And so, it seems to me that would be a good way to go. If you go back to your Carlos Santana example, we don't really have a debate on how we should welcome immigrants. The only debate is how we should keep them out. But if you talk to people at Microsoft or Google, they want immigrants. They have skills that they can't fill. They have positions they can't fill with the local workforce. And it runs all the way through from the Microsoft and Googles to the agricultural workforce that we started talking about. They have skills that they can't fill with the local workforce at the going wage rates. Again, Stephen Colbert. I get all my news from Stephen Colbert. The farmers out in California, the consumer is up in arms about all the immigrants working in the strawberry fields out in California, And so the labor union, okay, as well as the farmers said, okay, if you're all up in arms, you come and work here in the strawberry fields, you know. This is the wage rate we're paying. It's a piece rate, you know. The more you work, the harder you work, the more money you'll get. And there were two people applied for the job, one of which was Stephen Colbert, you know, who was just doing it as a media kind of stunt, you know. But we don't have this debate about how we're going to fill the skills gaps that we have in our workforce, all the way from high-tech companies to medicine to agricultural workers. The only debate we seem to be having is, you know, how big is the wall going to be?
And for example, we have the medical field here. Do we have enough Americans only, English only physicians that can treat all the people in the entire CSRA?
It's interesting. Despite the medical community we have here, we are an underserved area for primary care doctors right here in Augusta, Georgia. You know, we have a lot of specialties, you know, where people specialize in surgery or, cardiac kind of medicine, all that kind of thing. But your primary care doctors, you know, family practice, internal medicine, pediatrics, we're an underserved area, and we've got all this medical community. So that, you know, there are gaps in our workforce. You only have to look at the nursing side and see how low the numbers are there, and the number of vacancies that are being advertised by the hospitals that they can't fill. You know, so where's the policy that's, you know, it doesn't need to be an immigration policy, but where's the policy that's going to fill those skill vacancies in the future? I don't see it being debated, right? I don't think anyone agrees that we should have these like open borders, although we've tried that in Europe. But there needs to be some form of debate about, you know, which people are being allowed to come in, you know, where are our skill vacancies now and in the future that we can fill with a reasonable immigration policy. It gets very head up, this kind of debate, you know. And I think people sometimes make knee-jerk reactions, and the deeper understanding and analysis is kind of lacking, you know. It's a very emotional debate, and people think with their emotions rather than taking a step back and really thinking with their head about what would be the best long-term interests for the United States.